हरे कृष्ण। नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। वेलकम बैक to the second day of this course, Rediscovering Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti Part 2. So yesterday we started with a brief recap of whatever we covered in the first 5 days, Part 1 first 5 days. And then the second half an hour we covered this very important theme, which is the 11th theme in the second wave of eastern section, which is what are the duties expected of a qualified practitioner of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. So this is what we were discussing. I will do a quick recap of what we have seen yesterday. So first the Purva Paksha was presented, an argument was presented to Srila Rupa Goswami. I mean, it's a hypothetical argument. So someone may say, my dear Rupa Goswami, you are mentioning that Anyabhilashita Shunya Bhakti, for practicing it, anyone is qualified, any human being is qualified. But isn't there a problem with this? Because in the name of performing Bhakti, if he neglects his Varnashram duties, is it not sinful? Because the Shastras do say that non-performance of your prescribed duties, prescribed Varnashram duties, is actually sin. So therefore, by not performing their Varnashram prescribed duties, are they not performing a sinful activity? If you say yes, then on one side they are performing bhakti to purify, and on the other side they are performing the sinful activities for which are making them impure. Will they counterbalance each other, and will he not progress in bhakti? So this is a very interesting question that has been put forward. Are practicing devotees expected to practice their Varnashram duties along with their practice or bhakti or not? If no, then are they not committing a sinful activity? This is the question. So, and if they perform some, if they are committing that sinful activity, should they try to counteract that sin of non-performance of prescribed duty by performing some prayaschitta, karmakandi atonement? So this is what we discussed. So in response, Srila Rupa Goswami mentioned that we saw yesterday, Ananushthanato dosho bhakti anganam prajayate na karmanam akaranam esha bhakti adhikarinam nishiddha acharato daivat prayaschittam tu na uchitam iti Vaishnava shastranam rahasyam tadvidam matam. He says, for a bhakti adhikari, 4 points he mentions. One is, he is at fault for not performing the essential limbs of bhakti, which is first 20 limbs and the last 5 limbs. And then he is not at fault for non-performance of his Varnashram duties. This is the second point he made. And third point, if by chance he commits a prohibited activity, then he should not resort to the Karmakandiya Prayaschitta activities. Like we saw many examples yesterday. Like if you go to an astrologer, they would suggest various worship of demigods and many such prayaschittas that they suggest. A devotee should not do it. Then how will he rectify? Bhakti alone acts as the prayaschitta or atonement. So these were the 4 points in summary. We saw the summary yesterday. So to summarize, he is at fault for failing to perform the essential limbs of bhakti. He is not at fault for not performing the Varnashram duties. And third, if he commits a forbidden activity, he should not resort to rectify it by performing the Karmakandya Prayaschitta. And fourth point, bhakti alone acts as the Prayaschitta or atonement for such a person. These are the 4 things that we discussed. But then the main question that arises is, what does it mean to not perform varnashram duties? Are devotees escapists? Are they irresponsible people? Are they ungrateful people trying to escape from their varnashram responsibilities? This is the question. And the second question that comes is, but Arjuna did not give up his varnashram duties. He fought the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He took care of his family. Neither did he give up his varna dharma, nor did he give up his ashrama dharma. So did he really practice? Did he really follow the instruction of the last instruction that Krishna gave Arjuna? Sarvadharman parityajya mam ekam sharanam vraja. Did he follow this principle or not? If you say yes, then how will you justify his fighting on the battlefield? If you say no, then how is he a great devotee? He disregarded the most important instruction of Krishna, who did say Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja. But apparently he neither gave up his varna dharma nor gave up his ashrama dharma. Or was Krishna indicating something more deeper than merely giving up the activities of varnashram? When he did say Sarvadharman parityajya, was he actually asking Arjuna to give up the duties, or was he asking him to make a change of paradigm? This is what we were trying to understand yesterday. And this we tried to understand through the guidance of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, who in his Manas Siksha says, Nadharmam, Nadharmam, Shrutigana Niruktam Kilakuru, Vraje Raja Krishna Prachura Paritaryam Ihatanu. He says, Na dharmam kuru, O mind, do not perform any dharma. Na adharmam kuru, do not perform any adharma. Both are contradictory, because the moment you neglect your dharma, at that moment only you are performing adharma. So how can you simultaneously avoid dharma and avoid adharma? He says, I will explain. Vraje Radha Krishna Prachura Paricharyam Ihatanu. My dear friend, I am not asking you to give up dharma or adharma. I am asking you to give up your consideration of trying to act on the platform of dharma. Try to act on the platform of bhakti. This is what I am asking you. Vraje Radha Krishna Prachura Paricharyam Ihatanu. Don't think whether this is my dharma or adharma. Think in terms of whether it will please Radha and Krishna. Think in terms of whether it will please Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Think in terms of whether it will please my Guru and the Guru Varga and the Guru Shishya Parampara. Will it please them or not? That should be your consideration. So he is asking the mind. This is Manas Siksha, instructions for the mind of a sadhaka. So Raghunath Das Goswami is telling his mind, who is a sadhaka, Na dharmam kuru, na adharmam kuru, vraje Radha Krishna prachura paricharyam ihatanu. Meaning, give up this consideration of whether it is dharma or adharma. Start thinking in terms of anukulyasya sankalpo, pratikulyasya varjanam. So therefore we saw that there are three categories of people who perform activities in this material world. Of course there may be hundreds of varieties, but you can broadly classify them into three categories. One is a materialist, second is a dharmic person, and third is a devotee. So the materialist, his platform of action is raga sankalpo dvesha varjanam. Whatever he likes he accepts, whatever he does not like he rejects. And the dharmic person, what is his consideration? Dharma sankalpo, dharmasya sankalpo, adharmasya varjanam. Whatever is dharma according to his varna dharma and ashrama dharma, he will accept. If it is adharma, not prescribed in his dharma shastra as his varna dharma or ashrama dharma, he will reject it. This is the platform of paradigm of functioning of a dharmic person. What is the paradigm of functioning of a devotee? Bhakti anukulyasya sankalpo, bhakti pratikulyasya varjanam. And what is the basis, what is the pramana on which these three personalities act? The materialist pramana is his own experience. Because of his past experience, he liked something, so therefore this time he accepts it. And because of his past experience, he did not like something, he rejects it. That is the meaning of raga sankalpo dvesha varjanam. So the pramana is his own experience. For a dharmic person who acts on the platform of dharmasya sankalpo adharmasya varjanam, his pramana are the dharma shastras, which talk, what is the dharma or the prescribed duty of a brahmachari, a vanaprastha, a grihastha, a sannyasi. What are the prescribed duties of a brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, shudra? A brahmana grihastha, a brahmana sannyasi, a brahmana vanaprastha, what are his duties? The dharma shastras speak about these things in detail. What are the yagyas they have to perform, and what kind of charity they can give, they cannot give, what occupations they can practice, they cannot practice. So the dharma shastras guide the life of a dharmic person, one who has karma nishta, one who has qualification for practicing karma yoga or nishkama karma yoga or sakama karma yoga. The dharma shastras guide his practice. For a bhakti yogi, it is the bhakti shastras like Bhagavatam, Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, they guide his activities. They guide him to act on the platform of anukulyasya sankalpo and pratikulyasya varjanam. So therefore, if you see, let's to start with, let's compare varnashram and bhakti. These are like, this is a Venn diagram that you see, and the circle on your left is the varnashram circle, and the green circle on your right is the bhakti circle. Go green. So the left hand circle, a person qualified for varnashram or karma, he rotates around this circle with the center of dharma adharma, dharma adharma, dharma adharma, dharmasya sankalpo, adharmasya varjanam, dharmasya sankalpo, adharmasya varjanam, like that. And the person on the right hand side, he comes around this circle with the understanding bhakti anukulyasya sankalpo, bhakti pratikulyasya varjanam, anukulyasya sankalpo, pratikulyasya varjanam, like that. Whatever is favorable for bhakti, I will accept. Whatever is unfavorable for bhakti, I will reject. But in doing so, if you see, there can be a significant overlap. You see the section in between when the two circles are overlapping, or those of you who understand the language of set theory, A intersection B or varnashram intersection bhakti, there could be some activities which can potentially fall within the category of varnashram also, which can potentially fall within the category of bhakti also. So such activities, what would you say, do they fall within the category of varnashram or bhakti? It depends on the paradigm of performing those activities. I gave the example of that Mataji who was making boga for their lordships in the kitchen. His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj came and told, your devotional service has changed from tomorrow. From tomorrow you need not come for cooking. From tomorrow your devotional service is to take care of your child. Someone may say, taking care of the child is not bhakti. Taking care of the child is varnashram. But no, it depends on the paradigm, with what mood that activity is performed. If it is performed in the mood of anukulyasya sankalpo pratikulyasya varjanam, this is what will please Krishna. If I take care of this child nicely, give him a wonderful experience growing up in bhakti, then maybe he will grow up to appreciate bhakti, he will also take up bhakti. In that mood, when a mother takes care of the child, that taking care of the child does not fall under the category of varnashram, it falls under the category of bhakti only. Now, if you see these three circles, A intersection B intersection C, materialism intersection varnashram intersection bhakti. You see, where these three circles are intersecting, there could be certain activities which are performed by the materialists, by the practitioners of Varnashram and by practitioners of Bhakti. Let us take the same example of a mother taking care of the child. When a materialist, when a mother who has no Varnashram samskaras or Bhakti samskaras, who is just a normal material person, she may take care of her child out of natural affection for the child. Of course, natural affection for the child, all three people may have, but the only impetus to take care of the child for a materialistic mother could be affection for the child. Raga sankalpo, dvesha varjanam. And she will not harm the child because she hates harming her child. Whereas a person on the platform of Varnashram, that mother may take care of the child. Oh, this is my dharma, this is my Varnashram dharma, I will have to take care of the child. Dharmasya sankalpo, adharmasya varjanam. And a devotee mother may take care of the child. Anukulyasya sankalpo, pratikulyasya varjanam. So if you take the battlefield of Kurukshetra, then someone like, many people fought on the battlefield. Like someone like Kalayavan. So Kalayavan fought with Krishna, of course. I don't know if he really fought on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. I think he did fight. Kalayavan was not even a Kshatriya, he was a Yavana. So he fought on the battlefield not because it was his dharma, but because he liked fighting and he wanted some kingdom or prosperity or fame, whatever it could be. His fighting on the battlefield was on the platform of Raga Sankalpo, Dvesha Varjanam. Whereas a honest Kshatriya, there were many such honest Kshatriyas who were fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just because it was a dharmic battle. Someone like Shalva or Shalya, something like that, they could have fought, they might have fought on the battlefield because it is their dharma. Dharmasya sankalpo, adharmasya varjanam. Whereas Arjuna fought on the battlefield not because he was a Kshatriya, as we saw yesterday. Prabhupada very clearly makes it very clear that initially Arjuna did not want to fight the battle, but after hearing from Krishna, he fought because Krishna wanted him to fight, which means his fighting the battlefield was for pleasure of Krishna, his taking care of his family members was for the pleasure of Krishna. Anukulyasya sankalpo, pratikulyasya varjanam. So here is a classic case where the activity is same, fighting on the battlefield, but for what purpose? What was the prerna? What was the inspiration to fight on the battlefield? For the three people, they had three different inspirations, and it is the inspiration that defines whether that activity is Varnashram or a material activity or an act of devotional service. It is not the activity itself. That is the point that I am trying to emphasize here, and that is the point that Krishna is also emphasizing when he says Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja. He is not talking about activity, but he is talking about a change of paradigm, a change of thought process, a change of value system. What you value, you are no longer valuing dharma, but you are valuing pleasure of Krishna and Guru. So the value system has changed. The activity can remain the same. So therefore, for clarity purpose, I had in this slide, you see there is a slight overlap of Varnashram and Bhakti, but in reality, if you see, there could be a very significant overlap. There could be a very significant overlap of what the Varnashram duties prescribe and what the scriptures, Bhakti Shastras prescribe that a devotee does. In terms of external activities, there could be a significant overlap, but one should consider the intention and not the activity itself to conclude that whether it is an act of devotion or it is a Varnashram duty. Okay. So now let us try to understand what is the basis of Varnashram system. What powers the Varnashram system? what defines, what is the foundation of Varnashram system. So if you see, wherever in Bhagavatam Varnashram is spoken of, this theme comes very clear. Atah pumbir dvijashreshta varnashrama vibhagashah swanushtitasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam. Worship of Vishnu or pleasure of Vishnu has been very clearly established as the center of this Varnashram system. The whole Varnashram system revolves around the center of worshipping Vishnu and pleasing Vishnu. This is a verse from the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, O Dvijashreshta, O best of the Brahmanas, Suta Goswami is addressing the Shaunakadi rishis. He says, Swanushtitasya dharmasya samsiddhihi. Su anushtitasya dharmasya samsiddhihi. The ultimate perfection of perfectly practicing one's Varnashram duty, Varnashrama vibhagasha, according to one's Varna and Ashrama, is samsiddhir haritoshanam, is pleasing the Lord. So ultimately, pleasing the Lord is the purpose of performing Varnashram duties. Of the Varnashram system, the goal is pleasing Vishnu. So just we have to remember this goal, because based on this, our next discussion is based on this cardinal understanding. Another verse from the same chapter. Dharmas swanushtita pumsam vishvaksena katasuyah na utpadayed yadiratim shramayeva hi kevalam. Very clearly Suta Goswami says, Dharmas swanushtita pumsam. A human being may very perfectly execute his Varnashram duties, but yadi yaha na utpadayed vishvaksena katasu ratim. But if by executing that Varnashram duty, if eventually he does not develop a taste for hearing about the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shramayeva hi kevalam. Such kind of Varnashram duty is of no use, because the essence of Varnashram is Haritoshanam. The goal of the whole Varnashram system is to please Vishnu, to worship Vishnu. So Vishnu worship is at the center of Varnashram. So let us, I would request you to imagine this Varnashram to be a disc. And I have made it easy for you. That disc is already there on your screen. So just look at the disc. The disc has 7 sections and 3 circles. So the innermost circle is the circle of Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service. And the next circle, the middle circle, is called the circle of Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti. Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti means it is mixed devotional service, but with devotional service is predominant. So this has 3 categories: Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti and Yoga Mishra Bhakti. Okay. The blue and then the outermost circle is the circle of Guni Bhuta Bhakti. Guni Bhuta Bhakti means it is also mixed devotional service, but the percentage of devotional service is very small and the percentage of karma, jnana and yoga is predominant. So these are called as Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. So what is described in the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita is Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, which is the outer circle, where the percentage of karma, the percentage of jnana and the percentage of yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, is higher than the element of bhakti. But still it has the element of bhakti. That is why it falls within the Varnashram disc. So Varnashram disc means if a person has to fall within the Varnashram disc, he should be worshipping Vishnu. He cannot be not worshipping anyone. He cannot be worshipping the demigods. He cannot be worshipping the pretas, bhutaganas, nothing. Varnashram system means worship of Vishnu. You see, at the center of the middle circle is Vishnu worship. So all these 3 are concentric circles. The centermost circle of pure devotional service, Shuddha Bhakti, the middle circle of Pradhani Bhuta Bhakti, which has 3 components: Karma Mishra Bhakti, Jnana Mishra Bhakti and Yoga Mishra Bhakti. So all these three are predominantly bhakti only, but it has a slight tinge of karma, another has slight tinge of jnana, another has slight tinge of Ashtanga Yoga. And the outermost circle has three components again: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. So this is Gunibhuta Bhakti. If you remember, the first 6 chapters talk about Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. 6th chapter talks about Ashtanga Yoga. The 5th chapter talks about Jnana Yoga. And the 3rd and 4th chapter talks about Karma Yoga. Okay. And the middle 6 chapters talk about both Pradhanibhuta Bhakti and Shuddha Bhakti. So when Krishna speaks about Chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritino Arjuna arto jigyasur artarti jnani cha bharata rishabha, when he is talking about the 4 kinds of people who approach him for surrendering, of which the Artha, Jigyasu and Artarti, these first 3 fall within the category of Karma Mishra Bhaktas. And then the Jnani falls within the category of Jnana Mishra Bhakta. And then in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there is a description of the Yoga Mishra Bhakta. Sampreksha nasikagram swam dishashchana avalokayan, and such kind of descriptions come about the Yoga Mishra Bhakta, which is mentioned in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And then in the outer circle is the in the innermost circle is the circle of Shuddha Bhakti, which is talking, which is mentioned in verses like Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati, or Manmanabhava Madbhakto Madhyajinam Mam Namaskuru, or Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Yejana Pariyupasate, or Apichet Suduracharo Bhajate Manam Ananya Bhak. These are the verses which talk about Shuddha Bhakti. Okay. So now that is a small description about this Varnashram disc. I call this Varnashram disc because all the 7 sectors of this disc, they worship Vishnu and they don't worship demigods. They don't not worship anyone. Vishnu worship is there in all these 7 sectors. Okay. So therefore they all fall within the Varnashram system. So I hope you understand this disc now. Now my question is, do the Shastras recommend that everyone within this Varnashram system means this Varnashram disc, do everyone within this Varnashram system or disc perform Varnashram duties as prescribed in the Dharma Shastras? This is the question, very important question. So these 7 categories of people, the Shuddha Bhakta, the Karma Mishra Bhakta, the Jnana Mishra Bhakta, the Yoga Mishra Bhakta, then the Karma Yogi, the Jnana Yogi and Ashtanga Yogi, these 7 kind of people, do the Shastras recommend that all these people actually perform their Varnashram duties? This has to be evaluated based on the Shastric injunctions. Okay. So, and as we saw, the Varnashram duties are prescribed in the Dharma Shastras. So now, what about a Jnana Yogi or a Jnana Mishra Bhakta? Bhagavad Gita says in the 3rd chapter, 17th and 18th verse, Yastu Atmaratireva Syad Atmatruptascha Manava Atmanyeva hi Santushto Tasya Karyam na Vidyate. Bhagavad Gita says, one who is an Atmarati, who has attraction only for self-realization, Atma Truptascha Manava, he is completely satisfied only in pursuing his goal of self-realization. Atmanyeva is santushto, and apart from the self, he does not need anything external to satisfy him. Bhagavad Gita says, Tasya Karyam na Vidyate. For him there is no prescribed duties. He need not perform Varnashram prescribed duties. Naiva tasya kritenartho na kriteneha kaschana nachasya sarva bhuteshu kaschid artha vyapashrayah. He does not gain anything by performing his Varnashram prescribed duties, nor does he lose anything by non-performance of his varnashram prescribed duties, because he has no material attachment. So if you see, even though the Jnana Yogi and the Jnana Mishra Bhakta fall within the category of the varnashram disc, both these people, according to the Shastras, are not expected to perform their varnashram duties as such. They are in the varnashram system purely on the basis of worshipping Vishnu and not on the basis of performance of their varnashram duties as per the Dharma Shastras. Their practice is guided by the Jnana Shastras and not the Dharma Shastras. Now, let's talk about the Ashtanga Yogi and the Yoga Mishra Bhakta. What about the Ashtanga Yogi and the Yoga Mishra Bhakta? The Shastras say, Arurukshor Muner Yogam Karma Karanam Uchyate Yoga Rudasya Tasyeva Shamak Karanam Uchyate. So in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, describing about an Ashtanga Yogi, it is mentioned, in the beginning stages of Ashtanga Yoga, the means of progress of that Ashtanga Yogi is by performing his prescribed duties. For what reason? I will tell you. That is a whole different discussion. We will discuss that little later. And in the later stages of progress, when the Ashtanga Yogi reaches the stage of Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi, when he has to sit and meditate on the Paramatma within, at that time he is not expected to perform his prescribed duties. That's why it is said, Yoga Rudasya Tasyeva Shamakkarana Muchyate. At the stage of Yoga Ruda, the advanced stage of practice of Ashtanga Yoga or Yoga Mishra Bhakti, he is not expected to practice his varnashram prescribed duties. So in this way, if you see, again coming back to this varnashram disc, of the 7 sectors, the Jnana Mishra Bhakta and the Jnana Yogi, the Yoga Mishra Bhakta and the Ashtanga Yogi, 4 of them are not expected to practice their varnashram duties. At least the yoga, the one qualified for Jnana completely and the one qualified for Yoga, at least in the later stages, he is not expected to practice his varnashram duties. So, and what about the devotee then? What about the devotee, Bhakti Yogi? This we all know. Krishna clearly says, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja, aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. He says that you can give up all kinds of dharma and just surrender unto me, and I shall deliver you of all the sins, O Arjuna. So this is the injunction for a Bhakti Yogi. So now this, according to this, if you see, 5 out of the 7 sectors in this varnashram disc, they are actually not expected to practice their varnashram duties as prescribed in the Dharma Shastras. So that leaves us with only 2 categories of people, the Karma Yogis and the Karma Mishra Bhaktas. So these 2 categories of people, because they do have some attachment to karma, they cannot give up their varnashram duties until they progress from that particular level of qualification to a qualification for either, if a Karma Yogi becomes a Jnana Yogi, then he can give up. If a Karma Mishra Bhakta becomes qualified for practicing Jnana Mishra Bhakti, then he can give up. If either one of them becomes qualified for Shuddha Bhakti, then they can give up. So of these 7 categories of people who fall within the varnashram disc, based on their worship of Vishnu, only 2 categories of them are actually expected to perform their varnashram duties. So therefore, when Rupa Goswami says that for a practitioner of bhakti, he is not expected to perform his varnashram duties, it is not incongruent according to the teachings of Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. Still, you cannot say that the Jnana Yogi, Jnana Mishra Bhakta, Ashtanga Yogi and Yoga Mishra Bhakta and the Shuddha Bhakta, these 5 categories of people do not fall within Varnashram because they do not perform Varnashram duties. You cannot say that, because each of these personalities in the Varnashram system or in the Varnashram disc, they achieve the goal of pleasing Vishnu by performing a prescribed duty according to their adhikar or according to their qualification. And the Yoga Shastras define the prescribed duties of a yogi, the Dharma Shastras define the prescribed duties of a Karma yogi, and the Jnana Shastras define the prescribed duties of a Jnana yogi, and the Bhakti Shastras define the prescribed duties of a Bhakti yogi. And that's exactly what we are studying right now. What are the duties expected of a person qualified for practicing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti? So therefore, what here Rupa Goswami is presenting is not incongruent. It is very much in line with the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. So therefore, we have to understand that there is a difference between the Varnashram system, which is centered around pleasing Vishnu, and Varnashram duties, which are a very small part of this whole Varnashram setup actually. So each person in this Varnashram disc achieves the goal of pleasing Krishna by doing a duty for which he is qualified for. So this should be the understanding, and not everyone is expected to perform the duties of his Varna and Ashrama. That is only for those who have Karma Nishta, and not for Yoga Nishta, not for Jnana Nishta, and not for Bhakti Nishta. This is the point that we should understand. This is what we tried to understand based on the 4 verses that we saw from Bhagavad Gita. 2 for Jnana Yogi, 1 for Ashtanga Yogi, and 1 for Bhakti Yogi we saw. For Karma Yogi, he has to perform Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phala heturbur mate sangostu akarmani. Like that, Durena hi avaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddhau sharanam anvicha kripanaha phala hetava. In this way, Krishna in many places in Bhagavad Gita, at least in the first 6 chapters, emphasizes that Arjuna does perform his prescribed duties, because at that stage of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is qualified for karma. So he does say that. So there is no, and with respect to Karma Mishra Bhakti, Krishna clearly says in the Yat Karoshi, Yadashnasi, Yat Juhosi, Dadasiyat, Yat Tapasyasi Kaunteya Tatkurushva Madarpanam. In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about, in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he talks about Karma Mishra Bhakti also. Such a person also cannot give up his Varnashram duties. He has to perform because he has that adhikar. Or he does not have the adhikar by which he is qualified to give up those Varnashram duties. So 2 out of these 7 categories of people who all fall within the Varnashram disc actually are expected to perform their Varnashram duties as such. So therefore, the answer for these question that do the Shastras recommend that everyone within the Varnashram system perform Varnashram duties as prescribed in the Dharma Shastras? The answer is no. It is not. And that is exactly what Srila Rupa Goswami is also establishing here. So then the next theme is that then what is the role of Varnashram prescribed duties? Why do these 2 categories of people, the Karma Yogi and the Karma Mishra Bhakta, why do they have to perform Varnashram prescribed duties? What is the purpose? What is the use of performing these Varnashram prescribed duties? So I will quote some from the purport in Bhagavad Gita from some Baldev Vidyabhushan's purport, some Vishwanath Chakravarti's purport, and some Prabhupada's purport. Okay, this in order to understand this subject matter. So this is from the commentary to Bhagavad Gita verse 2.2 by Baldev Vidyabhushan. He says, the Lord explains that this renunciation of fighting does not lead to liberation, swarga or fame. It is not practiced by anaryajustam, aswargyam, akirtikaram Arjuna. Krishna says. Kutastva kashmalamidam, vishame samupastitam, anaryajustam, aswargyam, akirtikaram Arjuna. Where from this weakness of heart, where from this impurity has come upon your heart? Anaryajustam, aswargyam, akirtikaram. It is not practiced by someone who aspires for liberation, because those who are Arya, those who are very progressed in their understanding, they practice their designated duties of Varnashram for purification of the heart. So when the heart still has material desires, then to purify the heart of material desires, one performs one's prescribed duties in a detached way. So when one performs the Varnashram prescribed duties in a detached way, slowly the heart becomes purified of all material desires, and when it is completely purified, then he can focus on the Atma. This is where we saw yastu atmaratireva syad atmatriptascha manava atmanyeva hi santushto. How is he able to be completely satisfied in meditating on the Atma? Because his heart is fairly purified, completely purified of any material desires. How did the heart become purified of material desires? By practice of his Varnashram duties in a detached way. The same is true with Ashtanga Yogi. In the initial stages, in the Yoga Rurukshu stage, when his heart is still not completely cleansed, he needs to perform the Varnashram duties to cleanse the heart. When it has become fairly cleansed or almost completely cleansed, then his heart is clean enough to meditate on the Paramatma within the heart. At that point of time, he can give up his Varnashram duties. Similarly, the Jnana Yogi, when his heart has become completely cleansed, then at that point of time, when he is ready for Jnana, at that time he can give up his Varnashram duties. Okay. Another purport by Srila Prabhupada, verse number 3.4 Bhagavad Gita purport. Prabhupada says, the renounced order of life means sannyas. Sannyas means the path of Jnana Yoga, that is called as sannyas. The renounced order of life can be accepted when one has been purified. But how one can be purified? Prabhupada says, by the discharge of prescribed form of duties which are laid down to purify the hearts of materialistic men. So the purpose of Varnashram prescribed duties is to purify the heart of materialistic men. Without purification, one cannot attain success by abruptly adopting the fourth order of life, that is sannyas. Without sufficiently purifying the heart, one cannot take up to the path of Jnana Yoga or sannyas. This is Prabhupada speaking from the verse number 3.4 purport. Another 3.8 purport by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada writes in the purport, work should not be given up capriciously without purification of materialistic propensities. So therefore the purpose of work here means Varnashram duties, is to purify the materialistic propensities. Anyone who is in this material world is certainly possessed of the impure propensity of lording it over material nature. Or in other words, for sense gratification. Everyone has the lording mentality. Such polluted propensities have to be cleared. How can those polluted propensities of lording over be cleared? Prabhupada says, without doing so through prescribed duties, which means through Varnashram duties, one should never attempt to become a so-called transcendentalist, renouncing work and living at the cost of others. One should not do that. So, in this way, it is very clear that the purpose of Varnashram prescribed duties is to cleanse the heart, so that, because the prerequisite for practicing Jnana Yoga is a clean heart. And Jnana Yoga itself does not have the capacity to clean the heart. Therefore, Jnana Yoga is dependent on Nishkama Karma Yoga to cleanse the heart. And Ashtanga Yoga is also dependent on Nishkama Karma Yoga to cleanse the heart. Nishkama Karma Yoga means performance of Varnashram prescribed duties in a detached way. Now the question is, and Baldev Vidyabhushan again in the commentary for this Sarvadharman Parityajya verse, he says, now if you are a Sanishta Bhakta means mixed devotee, you perform dharma for purification of the heart. Okay. If you are a Parinishtita Bhakta means a sadhaka. A sadhaka may perform the Varnashram dharma to teach others, because he himself does not have to perform. Performance of dharma is required for these two types of bhakti. Now the question is, if Varnashram duties are necessary to cleanse the heart, you cannot say that a Vaidhi sadhaka's heart is clean. A Vaidhi sadhaka's heart still has material desires. How is a Vaidhi sadhaka or a Bhakti yogi's heart, how would a Bhakti yogi's heart be purified if he neglects his Varnashram duties? Because we saw the purpose of Varnashram duty is to cleanse the heart, purify the heart. How will that heart be purified if a devotee neglects his Varnashram duties as recommended by none other than our Abhideya Acharya Srila Rupa Goswami and none other than Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita? How is a devotee expected to purify his heart if he gives up the Varnashram duties? That's exactly what we saw in the first wave, the 6 benefits of bhakti. The very first benefit was Kleshagni. Kleshagni means destruction of suffering. And we saw suffering means avidya, bijam, papam, prarabdha karma, aprarabdha karma. So prarabdha karma, aprarabdha karma is reaction. Then there is that reaction comes due to a sinful action. That sinful action is coming due to a sinful desire, and the sinful desire is coming due to sinful vasanas. And we saw that how the sinful vasanas and the sinful desires can be cleansed by practice of bhakti. So therefore bhakti acts as the means for cleansing the heart of the sadhaka of all kinds of impure desires. And that's exactly what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also says in the very first verse of Shikshashtakam, and the very first benefit. He also talks about 7 benefits of chanting. The first benefit of chanting, very first benefit of chanting, he says is Cheto Darpana Marjanam, cleansing the mirror of heart of all materialistic desires. So now the point that we are trying to understand is that a devotee or a practitioner of bhakti is not dependent on Varnashram duties for cleansing his heart. That is why people who are not within Varnashram, they can also practice bhakti. Because people who are not within the realm of Varnashram, the Chandalas, Shvadopi Sadyah Savanaya Kalpate, Kutap Punaste Bhagavannu Darshanad, we saw Kirata Honandra Pulinda Pulkasha, Abira Shumba Yavanaka. None of these people are within the Varnashram. Shastras say they can practice bhakti. Vaishnavo Shvapacho Guruhu. Avaishnavo Gurur Nasyad. Vaishnavo Shvapacho Guru. Not only can he become a Vaishnava, but he can become a Vaishnava Guru. Who? A Chandala. He is not within the Varnashram. He is an Antyaja, an outcast. So how will his heart become purified? By practice of bhakti. So devotees are not dependent on performance of Varnashram duties for cleansing their heart. And this is exactly what is mentioned by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita also. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanehi name bhakta pranashyati. He says, this is the verse after apichet suduracharo, where he talks about even a durachari bhakta can practice bhakti, can achieve perfection in bhakti. Sadhureva samantavya, Krishna says. But then how will his durachar go away? Krishna says, I will take responsibility. Shipram bhavati dharmatma. He will very soon become a dharmatma. How? By his practice of bhakti. Shashvat shantim nigacchati. Very soon he will become, Shashvat means very fast. He will become shantim nigacchati. He will become completely purified. If I say these people will not believe, O Arjuna, you go and proclaim that my devotee shall never perish. Name bhakta pranashyati. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Prabhupada and Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan, we will see sections of their purports, very beautiful purport to this verse. Please hear carefully, every line is a jewel which can help us understand this section better. So someone may say, Oh Krishna, how can you accept the worship of such a sinful person? Because in the previous verse Krishna says he is a Sudurachari. If he is a Sudurachari, how can you accept the worship of a Sudurachari Bhakta? How can you eat the food given by him? How can you drink the water and juices given by him? His heart is contaminated with lust, anger, envy, greed, illusion and pride. Krishna says, you don't worry about that. He will very quickly become righteous because of his practice of bhakti. And he says, the present tense is used, Shipram bhavati dharmatma, which means he is righteous or he is becoming righteous. And not the future tense to indicate that having committed the sin, by remembering the Lord, he becomes repentant, and by that fire of repentance, the sin is burnt. So he thinks, oh, how unfortunate I am. There is no one as low as I bringing bad name to the devotees. Like that he feels. Aadat se majboor hai. He has been humbled by his habits, his past bad habits. And every once in a while he may succumb to those past bad habits and he feels repentant within his heart. Shashvat shantim nigacchati. Repeatedly he feels disgust for those actions. Why did I do this? Why did I act in such a way that would bring disgrace to the community of devotees? Which would displease my Guru? Which would embarrass Krishna? Why did I act in this way? He feels like that. Or the use of the present tense, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, may also indicate that in future he will develop righteousness, but even now that righteousness is present in a subtle form, in the form of his Shraddha. He knows this is wrong, I should not be doing it, but the habit is not letting me go. The habit is clinging to me very hard. Krishna, please help me. He feels like that. In that way, but the desire to rectify himself is there even now, and that desire will burn off that habit that he has. Like after taking medicine, it takes some time for the medicine to act. You cannot go to a doctor, he will prescribe you some crocin, you put that crocin in your mouth, or you have some symptoms of fever, the doctor puts a thermometer in your mouth and he checks 102. What should I do, doctor? Here, take this paracetamol tablet. You pop the paracetamol tablet in your mouth, drink some water, and then you tell the doctor, now put the thermometer in my mouth. So if the doctor puts the thermometer, half a minute after you have popped that paracetamol in your mouth, and if he checks the temperature, it will still say 102 only. You should allow some time for the tablet to do its job. Come after 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours when the tablet has dissolved and then its potency has spread over the body, then you can check and it will show 96 or 97, whatever it may be. So in the same way, when one starts practicing bhakti, we should not be impatient. We should give some time for that process to act on that person and cleanse his heart. Cheto Darpana Marjanam takes some time. In his book Madhurya Kadambini, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Anartha nivritti or destruction of unfavorable desires happens in 5 stages. Ekadeshavartini, Bahudeshavartini, Prayiki, Purna and Atyantiki. 5 different stages. And that 5 stages spans from the time we start practicing bhakti till we reach the stage of prema. Gradually the anarthas get destroyed. So therefore, thus with the entrance of bhakti in his mind, the sinful actions are not taken seriously. And the traces of sin such as lust and anger should be considered to be insignificant, like the biting of a toothless snake, because very soon that is going to vanish. That lust and anger that he may have, by his practice of bhakti, that will vanish in a very short time. Thus he attains complete cessation of lust and anger permanently. This means even during the stage of having a tendency to commit a sin, that person has a pure heart, because he knows that these are my anarthas. I should get rid of these anarthas. He knows that, but he is struggling, and that struggle is not going to be for long, because he is worshipping Krishna. He is performing bhakti. So what we are discussing now is the theme. Just I am reminding you the theme, that we saw that the purpose of varnashram duties is to cleanse the heart so that he can become qualified for practicing jnana yoga or ashtanga yoga. Who will cleanse the heart of a bhakti yogi if he also has material desires? So Krishna says the process of bhakti will cleanse. Process of bhakti means I will personally cleanse the heart of that person. He takes responsibility for that. So then the argumentator may still persist. He may argue with Krishna further. Look, what you say is right, I agree. If after practice of bhakti, after some days he becomes righteous, it's okay. If his impurities go away, it's okay. What if till the time of death there are still traces of impurities in that person? What do you have to say, Krishna? Krishna at this point becomes angry. He says, look, I no longer want to speak with this person. Oh Arjuna, you go and speak with him. You go and tell. You share your experience with him. You tell that how I protect my devotee. I shall never let him perish. Even at the time of death, if he has some traces of sinful activities, I will give him protection. What should I do to make this non-believer believe? In anger, Krishna speaks this phrase, Kaunteya pratijanehi name bhakta pranashyati. Arjuna, you go and tell them that my devotees shall never perish. But arguers with harsh tongues will not respect this. Krishna then encourages the worried, lamenting Arjuna. O Kaunteya, you go to this squabbling assembly, this assembly where they are fighting amongst each other, with a tumultuous sound of drums, throwing your hands in the air, you should fearlessly declare this. Declare what? That my devotee shall never perish. Name bhakta pranashyati. So, but rather he reaches success. You present this to them. This is what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. So therefore, one should not accept the false statements and false arguments of those people who say that, look, how can he practice bhakti? He still has attachment to his wife, his house, and he is still troubled by some bad habits. He should first perform his varnashram prescribed duties, cleanse his heart, only then he can practice bhakti. This is not according to the Siddhanta. Bhakti itself is capable of purifying his heart. This is what Krishna is trying to so emphatically mention in this verse. Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvat shantim nigacchati kaunteya pratijanehi name bhakta pranashyati. Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan commenting on this verse, he says, he is going to repeat the same thing, but just to say that there is concurrence in the mood of the acharyas when they are commenting in such verses, on such verses. But one who exclusively worships me is purified of his incidental sinful acts by me. Krishna says, I will purify him. Who am most purifying? I am the Lord of all and I am the most purifying because I hold the devotee within my mind. Sadavo hridayam mahyam sadhunam hridayam tvaham madanyatena jananti naham tebhyo managapi. I do not think about anyone beyond my devotee. I allow my material energy to take care of them. My sima, the border of my thought process starts with the devotees and ends with the devotees. My active thought process, Krishna says. Therefore, why would I not personally purify him? He then very quickly becomes steady in proper conduct. Shipram bhavati dharmatma. Continually repenting his previous acts, he completely becomes sinless because of such a repentance. But the smartas will not consider such a person proper. Why? He has been, the smartas will say, oh, he has committed such sinful activities and we have never seen him perform any prayaschitta. So he is still sinful. They will not accept. But we don't expect them to accept also because Swalpa punyavatam rajan vishwasonaiva jayate. Those who do not have sufficient sukriti, they cannot trust the glory of a Vaishnava. Mahaprasade Govinde Nama Brahmane Vaishnave. They will judge a Vaishnava on a common pedestal only. They will say, oh, he has not performed any prayaschitta. He is still sinful, like that. Controlled by attraction to his devotee, the Lord then replies with slight anger. O son of Kunti, Arjuna, going to that assembly of smartas, you declare that my exclusive devotee, if he commits sinful acts out of negligence, is not destroyed because I personally protect him. He does not become separated from me and attain misfortune. Rather, purified by me, who am most purifying, he shines with the qualification to attain me. And then this is what Bhagavatam also says, Swapada Moolam Bhajata Priyasya Tyaktanya Bhavasya Hari Pareshah Vikarma Yachot Patitam Katanchit Dhunoti Sarvam Hridi Sannivishta. Bhagavatam says, Swapada Moolam Bhajatah, one who worships the lotus feet of Krishna, Tyakta Anya Bhavasya, after giving up, he worships Krishna by pure bhakti and he gives up karma, jnana, yoga and everything. Vikarma yachot patitam katanchit. Somehow or other, if he performs an act which is unfavorable, which is an abominable act, dhunoti sarvam hridi sannivishta, the Lord present within his heart, he purifies the heart of that person. Hridi sannivishta. The Lord takes personal responsibility. Therefore, remembrance of Krishna or practice of bhakti acts as the atonement. Finally, we will end with seeing Srila Prabhupada's purport to this verse, only some section of Prabhupada's purport. Prabhupada says, generally a devotee who is engaged in the 9 kinds of devotional activities is engaged in the process of cleansing all material contamination from the heart. So practice of bhakti cleanses the heart for a devotee. He puts the Supreme Personality of Godhead within his heart and all sinful contaminations are naturally washed away. Continuous thinking of the Supreme Lord makes him pure by nature. According to the Vedas, there is a certain regulation that if one falls down from his exalted position, he has to undergo certain ritualistic process to purify himself. This is called as prayaschitta. But here there is no such condition, because the purifying process is already there in the heart of the devotee. What is that purifying process? Remembrance of Krishna. Due to his remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare should be continued without stoppage. This will protect a devotee from all accidental fall downs. He will thus remain perpetually free from material contamination just on the strength of his practice of bhakti. So to summarize, what we have seen are these 4 points. A devotee is at fault for failing to perform the essential angas of bhakti. He is not at fault for failing to perform the duties of varna and ashrama, and we have mainly focused on this point, second point. And the third, if he commits a forbidden activity, he need not perform the karmakandiya process of prayaschitta. And fourth, for such a person, bhakti alone acts as the atonement. This is the summary. So tomorrow, when we start, I will give a very brief recap, and we have to see proofs. So these 4 points, the proofs has to be established. So we will see the proofs tomorrow. Forgive me, I am taking additional time to cover this topic, but this is a very essential topic which need to be understood properly. So therefore, we are taking, and in fact this is so important that Rupa Goswami repeats this theme 3 times. First time while defining pure devotional service, Anyabhilashita Shunyam. Second, before discussing the theme of Angas of Bhakti. And third, immediately after discussing the Angas, he again mentions that how Varnashram duties are not limbs of Bhakti. So, thank you very much for your patient listening. And tomorrow when we start, I will again do a brief recap of what we have seen, and then we will take this subject matter further. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai. Shri Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu ki jai. Hare Krishna.